Berkshire Hathaway Vice Chairman Charlie Munger died today at the age of 99. Becky Quick rejoins us. Becky, a passing of the torch here.
Yeah, clearly Charlie Munger was somebody everybody in business looked to. Warren Buffett, his partner for so many years, looked up to Charlie too. Charlie was somebody who had a very philosophical view of life. He looked at things in buckets. He had systems for how he adjusted and looked at things. And he was really a Renaissance man, somebody who had learned from lots of different areas of intellectual study, everything from physics and mathematics to sociology, psychology. He took time and spent a lot of time in all of these things, architecture too. And I sat down with him just a couple of weeks ago. We were trying to put together a package for his 100th birthday that's coming up in just about 5 weeks' time. He would have been turning 100 on January 1st. He had a big birthday party planned for New Year's Eve. Sat down with him and talked to him about looking back on his life, if there was anything that he would change, anything he wished he would have done differently. And this is what he had to say.
Is there anything left on your bucket list, anything you'd like to do?
Well, that's an interesting question. I am so old and weak compared to what I was when I was 96 that I no longer want to catch a 200-pound tuna. It's just too goddamn much work. To get it in, it takes too much physical strength. So I don't know why I would have paid any amount to catch a 200-pound tuna when I was younger and never caught one. And now if give me the opportunity, I would just decline going. I won't even go out after them. There are things you give up with time. And
you're pretty active. You've got a busy social schedule. You're on Zoom. You have breakfasts and lunch.
Well, I like it that way.
Yeah.
That's my idea of a proper old age for me. And I didn't plan it. It just happened. And when it happened, I welcomed it. I am very good at recognizing unfair advantages. And I got unfair advantages in old age the way I got unfair advantages in non-old age. And when they came, I just grabbed them. Boom, boom, boom.
Charlie Munger also lived his life very deliberately. He knew exactly how he thought you should do things, and most of the time that included invert, 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 look at things and live backwards. He offered some sage advice to Warren Buffett many years ago about how you should live your life, and I asked him about that too.
Charlie, Warren Buffett told me that a long, long time ago. You told him he should live his life. He should write his obituary the way he wants it written and then live his life accordingly.
Yeah, sure.
I assume you've done the same thing for yourself.
Well, no, I've written my obituary the way I've lived my life, and if people want to pay attention to it, it's all right with me. And if they want to ignore it, that's okay with me too. I'll be dead, but what difference will it make? And so, but I think it's not a bad idea. Listen, Warren and I both live in the same house for decade after decade after decade. All our friends get rich and build bigger and better houses. And naturally, we both considered bigger and better houses. And I had a huge number of children, so it was justifiable even. And I still decided not to live a life where I look like the Duke of Westchester or something. And I was going to avoid it. I did it on purpose.
Why?
I didn't think it would be good for the children.
That it would spoil them?
Yeah, it's. If you're in a rich family, you think your duty is to use the wealth to live grandly. That's what everybody's doing with the money. You will learn from the people that are doing it.
Is the plan for your life, the obituary you would write in your 30s, the same you would write today?
Sure. I basically believe in the soldier-on system. Mm-hmm. Lots of hardship will come, and you gotta handle it well by soldiering through. And a few rare opportunities will come. You got to learn how to recognize them when they come, and not make too minor a trip to the pie counter when the opportunity is available. And those are simple lessons.
And soldier on he did. He was talking about making trips to the pie counter. That was a reference to making sure you took opportunities when you knew you had a sure thing. He said he did, and Warren Buffett did too. And that's how they built Berkshire Hathaway, by making those targeted opportunities, knowing when you get the trip to the pie bar and loading up when you do.
Becky, you're a journalist, so I know there's remove here, but at the same time, when you spend the amount of time with someone that you spent with Charlie Munger and with Warren Buffett, it's tough. But you know and knew him so well. We talk a lot about how right people were when they reach this kind of stuff, what they were right about. But how did Charlie Munger react to being wrong about things?
First of all, yes, Charlie was my friend. Known him for a very long time and respected him enormously. I think Charlie recognized and is quick to admit when he's wrong. I don't think he often thinks he's wrong. He even said to me at the time, a couple of weeks ago when we were there, he said, look, people think I'm too opinionated sometimes, that maybe I come away with my own thoughts on things, and he did. But he came to those opinions through deep study and deep thought, and again, this system of processes for how he thought about things. But I think he had no problem admitting when he made a mistake and when that became obvious, too.
One of the clearest examples of his different thinking, to me, I didn't know him personally, was this dorm design. You mentioned his interest in architecture. It makes sense to me, but to a lot of people on paper, the idea that people would live in these dorms without windows, but then, really socialize in big, well-lit common areas. There's a bit of an uproar over that, but he stuck to his guns.
He did. He was willing to make a gift of a lot of money. I think it was over $100 million that he was willing to donate to the school in California if they would take and use it to build student housing using his own designs. He was an architect. He designed the house that we did that interview in 70 years ago. Lived in that house for 70 years, designed it himself, and he had these thoughts about it. In fact, he did one at the University of Michigan, which also has no windows, and they accepted it. So it was built there. His thought process on this, and I did talk to him about this at one point a few years ago, his thought process on this is that, yeah, you're not going to get a window, but you get your single room, a place where you can go if you want to stay. But he didn't want it to have windows and have people to stay in their rooms. He wanted them to go there to sleep, to study if they needed to, but then to get out into the common areas and meet with other people, because he thought it was really important to kind of push people out to socialize and interact face to face.
And where I went to school, DePaul University, sororities did something like this. It was called cold dorms, and you'd have, I've never been in one, but you'd have these bunk beds without windows. I've never been in, and they would sleep in there, but socialize in the social space. So there's some legacy of that and of it working, even though a lot of people. By the way,
Charlie would not think he was wrong on it. He thought he was right.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And such a track record, such a personality.
Yeah.
We're getting close to the end of the hour, but what's going to stick with you, either moment-wise, wisdom-wise, about Charlie Munger?
Look, Charlie is the fastest brain, I think, of just about anybody you've ever seen. Warren Buffett says that he can look at any deal and pick it out faster than any person on the planet and know what's wrong, what might work with it, what might be wrong. But it was the same thing with just about anything you fed him. You feed him a problem and he could spit back and answer instantaneously. And he'd think through so many different things. He was opinionated, sure, but he was kind and a very decent person, and that's what I'm going to miss most about him.